What if your dog licking you isn't just affection, but something far more complex? Your dog just licked you again. Maybe it happened the moment you walked in the door. Maybe while you were sitting quietly, not even paying attention. Or maybe it was that quick, almost unnoticed touch on your hand that felt so normal you didn't think twice about it. Most people label it instantly: love, comfort, bonding. But that explanation is too simple for something that happens so often in so many different situations. Because licking is not one behavior with one meaning. It's a layered system shaped by instinct, emotion, and early life survival programming. To understand it, you can't start with adult dogs. You have to go back to the beginning, when life itself is still being learned through sensation. A newborn puppy doesn't see the world. It doesn't understand sound or space. Everything is touch, warmth, pressure, and scent, and one of the first consistent experiences in that stage is the mother's tongue. She licks constantly, cleaning, stimulating, protecting. But beyond physical care, something deeper is happening. The puppy learns a pattern: tongue safety, survival, presence. That association becomes embedded before memory even forms properly. So when your dog grows up and licks you, it isn't starting from zero. It's pulling from the earliest emotional imprint it has ever known. But that is only the foundation. Because the real meaning of licking changes depending on how and where it happens. What if your dog is not licking you randomly, but reading you like a live information source? To you, your body is just physical space. To your dog, it's a moving map of information. A face lick after you come home is not just greeting. Your face carries traces of every place you've been: air particles, human contact, emotional shifts in chemistry, even stress-related scent changes. Your dog is not just being cute in that moment. It is sampling data, recalibrating familiarity. Now shift to your hands. Hands are the most active part of your interaction with the world. They touch objects, surfaces, food, strangers, doors, money, everything. So when a dog licks your hand, it is not emotional first. It is investigative. A quick scan. What has changed since last time? Then there's another pattern people often miss: repeated licking in one specific area. When a dog returns again and again to the same spot, it can indicate something more focused is happening. Dogs are extremely sensitive to chemical shifts in the human body that we don't consciously detect. There are real observations where dogs showed persistent attention to areas later linked to medical issues. But this doesn't mean every repeated lick is a warning. It simply means dogs are constantly reading biological signals we overlook, and most of the time we interpret behavior emotionally instead of functionally. What if your dog is licking you, but you are not the real target? Not every lick is communication. Some licking is internal regulation. Dogs experience emotional states like stress, uncertainty, or overstimulation, but they don't always express them in obvious ways. Instead, they repeat behaviors that stabilize their nervous system. And licking is one of the simplest tools for that. The motion creates rhythm. Rhythm creates predictability. Predictability reduces internal tension. So in these moments, licking is not about bonding or messaging. It is about self-control. Think of it like human habits: nail biting, tapping, scrolling, pacing. The action itself becomes soothing, regardless of meaning. This is where misunderstanding happens. Owners often see increased licking and assume increased affection. So they respond with attention, laughter, or engagement. But if the behavior is anxiety-driven, that reaction can unintentionally reinforce it. The dog learns: stress, lick, response, repeat. Over time, the pattern strengthens instead of fading. That's why context matters more than emotion. Not all licking is the same behavior, even if it looks identical on the surface. What if licking is not a habit, but a survival system older than domestication itself? Before dogs became companions, they were social animals living in structured groups. In those groups, grooming behavior was not optional. It was essential for survival. Grooming builds trust, reduces tension, reinforces group identity. Licking comes from that same biological framework. When your dog licks you, it is not just interacting with an individual. It is placing you inside a social structure. A silent classification. You belong here. Another key factor is scent integration. Dogs rely heavily on smell to define relationships and safety. Licking contributes to a shared scent environment, reducing the boundary between self and other. That reduction of boundary is interpreted by the animal brain as safety and belonging. This system didn't begin with domestic dogs. It likely evolved long before in early canine ancestors where cooperation determined survival. Over time, that system transferred into human-dog relationships. But the mechanism stayed the same. Licking is not random affection, it is social alignment. What if there is no single meaning behind your dog licking you, and that's exactly the point? Licking cannot be reduced to one explanation. It is not only love, it is not only anxiety. It is not only curiosity. It is a combination of systems overlapping: instinct, emotion, memory, and environment. And the mistake most people make is trying to assign one fixed meaning to it. But dogs don't communicate in fixed meanings. They communicate in patterns. When it happens, how often it happens, where it happens, and what follows it, all of that matters more than the lick itself. Once you stop interpreting single moments and start observing patterns, the behavior becomes clearer. Not mysterious, not random, but structured. And that changes everything about how you relate to it, because now you're not reacting emotionally to behavior, you're understanding it in context. And that's where real communication starts. Not in guessing meaning, but in recognizing systems.